Won't walk through one of these in Charlotte. Can't do this in Charlotte. Won't see that in Charlotte. Can't catch those fish in Charlotte. Can't do that in Charlotte. Won't find this guy in North Carolina. Sure wouldn't be lounging under one of these babies in Charlotte. It's true, ladies and gentlemen. There's a lot of things that you can do in Florida that you won't be able to do in North Carolina. But the same holds true for North Carolina as it does for Florida. So I pose the question, if you're on the fence between Florida and North Carolina, two great places to live, which one should you choose to move and live? I received a couple of comments over the last month or so from some of my faithful subscribers. Matthew, who lives up in Raleigh, North Carolina, and Wesley, currently torn between whether or not he should move to North Carolina or Florida. And guys, I really think you came to the perfect place, not just because this is my vlog, but because of the fact that I actually lived for quite some time in both North Carolina and Florida. Now, they do have some similarities that are relatively obvious, but they also have some distinct differences. I'm going to key in on those, and at the end, I'm going to reveal the number one reason that I think you should choose one state over the other. I think the information that I can give you guys that's crucial to your decision-making process is broken down into about 4 or 5 different areas. Try to get as close to that water as I can without destroying any equipment. So the first of the 5 differences that I want to cover with you guys is probably the most obvious, and that's geography. And when it comes to geography, Florida can be summed up basically in one word: flat. Any place that has anything resembling a mound, well, Florida isn't going to have any of that for the most part. In fact, the highest elevation in the entire state of Florida is just 345 feet above sea level. North Carolina, on the other hand, you've got mountains. So in Charlotte, which was great for that, I could get in my car and drive to like Lake Lure and be there in about an hour and a half. Last of the Mohicans was filmed in Chimney Rock. I could literally be at that park in about an hour and a half, get in my car and drive and be there in no time. The closest thing to South Florida, to any kind of mountain range, you know, you're talking about a 10-hour drive from here, at least. That's a long way to go if you need to get to mountains. So in summary, Florida, flat, basically at sea level. North Carolina, you've got the foothills, the Piedmonts, you got the Appalachian Mountains there, the Blue Ridge Mountains, the Great Smoky Mountains. But what Florida lacks in mountains, it makes up for in beaches. Hard as this may be to believe, Florida has more coastline than any state in the entire continental United States. The only state that has more coastline than Florida is Alaska. I don't think you want to go swimming up there. Between the East Coast and the Gulf Coast, Florida has close to 1,400 miles of coastline. I would definitely recommend it. Either way, we're having a great time. Now, don't get me wrong. North Carolina's got some pretty good beaches. And Charlotte is a great spot because it's basically on the border of South Carolina. So to get to places like Charleston or Myrtle Beach, you can drive there and you can plan a nice weekend getaway, or as long as you want to stay there. North Carolina is on the East Coast, and you can live on the beach in North Carolina, but most people don't. The larger cities where most of the jobs are happen to be inland. If you're looking at either Charlotte or Raleigh as the place you're going to move to, then you're going to have several hours drive just to get to the beach. So I'm going to try to be as unbiased with you guys as I possibly can be. And I'm going to point out a really great advantage to North Carolina over Florida when it comes to the geography. Well, I'm talking about its actual location on the eastern seaboard. North Carolina is located in the mid-Atlantic, which means it's very close to a lot of other states. And even Florida isn't that far of a drive if you want to go down, or if you want to reverse it and go up to New York, it's about equidistant in the opposite direction. So if you like road trips by vehicle, North Carolina, especially Charlotte, is a great place to call home just to get up out of the state of Florida. From South Florida, takes a good 5 hours. Now, one last thing that I'll tell you guys about geography, which is kind of also obvious, but something that, I mean, unless you really think about it, you're not going to think about it. So I'm here to remind you, Florida has palm trees. Now, you could say what you want. You could say that it's no big deal. Looks like that palm tree had a better day. But live in a place like Michigan, New York, Delaware, Massachusetts, any place that is not within the geography of a subtropical environment is not going to have palm trees. There are some states that have planted palm trees. They brought them in and they put them there because their winter weather is milder than most other states further north. So the palm trees will do okay over there, but only certain limited species of palm trees. Here in Florida, we have all manner of palm trees, and to me, it's something helps me de-stress and appreciate the place that I live. I will not live anywhere from this point forward that cannot accommodate palm trees. Thank you, Florida. The next one is a very important consideration for just about anyone. What I'm talking about, of course, is the cost of living. $2.78 a gallon. Pay more than that for the gas. So I'm getting gas here in Boca Raton, which is the worst place you could possibly get gas. It's almost $3.10 a gallon. It's a lot cheaper if you look elsewhere, but I live in Boca. I happen to be here right now, so I need gas. I'd probably give a slight advantage to North Carolina, but there are a couple of major areas of cost that are different between the two states that I think we should touch upon. The first is housing. I'm going to sum it up like this, guys. I think that they're relatively equal. The prices of the homes in North Carolina have caught up to a large degree to Florida. The difference is in terms of the type of house you get and the square footage. In Charlotte, you could probably find yourself a 3-bedroom, 2-bath in a nice neighborhood in a good location for somewhere in the $300,000 range. It's going to have 2 levels. It could have a fireplace. Probably going to have a deck with a nice big backyard, possibly 1/4 acre, 1/2 acre land, maybe even more. In Florida, we got what's called 0 lot lines. So there's not that much here in the way of land, at least in South Florida. Apples to apples, I would just say that I think in North Carolina, house-wise, you get more for the money than you do in Florida. Down here, we don't have gas. Everything's electric. So if you like cooking with gas, you're out of luck if you're living in Florida. Also, we're at sea level. So unless you want this ocean in your basement, you better live in North Carolina because we don't have basements here in the state of Florida. Well, one of the reasons a lot of people move to Florida is because there is no state income tax. It's one of the few states in the country that does not have a state income tax. That means even if you're paying more in other areas, you're going to make up for it by not having to pay a state income tax. The other thing about the cost of living that you may not ordinarily think about is clothing. And it's going to be less in Florida, especially if you're here in South Florida. All your winter clothes, say goodbye. You won't be needing them. I'm wearing pretty much 90% of the year shorts and t-shirts. I have some winter clothes that are hanging in the closet, and when I look at them, they actually look silly to me. So you'll get some days in the year, a couple here or there sprinkled throughout the winter where, you could put some sweatshirts, maybe even a light jacket. It's pretty rare and very short-lived. So long sleeves, heavy clothes, jackets, boots, galoshes, all those things, sell them, give them away. Unless you're traveling out of the state, you ain't gonna need them. In Charlotte, I had sweaters, I had sweatshirts, boots, gloves, remember gloves? So there's items down here that you just won't need because it's, it doesn't make sense. Snow blowers, snow shovels, mittens, scarves, ski masks. You will not be wearing winter clothes down here, folks. Number 3, the people. There's really a broad range of people that are living here. Florida is chock full of a lot of guys like me. Transplanted New Yorkers, at least down here in South Florida. The first influx of island folks that came over to Florida were the Cubans that came over here in the early 1980s for the most part. Folks from South America started to migrate. So we have a lot of Colombians. You're from Colombia? What's your name, buddy?
Juan David.
Juan David?
You're living in English.
Brazilians, Chileans, Argentinians, and folks from Central America and all over Latin America. What's great about that is the diversity and the culture that it brings. We have we have Little Havana, which I showed you guys. We have Little Haiti, which makes this a really diversified melting pot of a location for you to live. Most of the major banks are headquartered in Charlotte, North Carolina, which attracts a lot of jobs to that area. As a result, many families picked up where they were before, many of them from the Northeast, and they moved to North Carolina. But you're not going to get the cultural diversity up there that you get down here. There's some of that. I found Charlotte in particular to be very family oriented. If you like going to church, North Carolina is wonderful for that because it's quite prevalent in that state. The last item on my list, recreation. So in Florida we have this, the Atlantic Ocean on the East Coast and the gorgeous and warm Gulf waters of Florida's West Coast. So if I want to go deep sea fishing or surf fishing right here on the beach, I can do that. And I can do that all year long. In North Carolina, I have to be on the coast or get to the coast in order to plan that kind of a daily activity. And the very fact that Florida has warm weather all year long and no snow. It doesn't snow down here, guys. Ever. Okay? It snowed once, I heard, I think for like 8 seconds. All right? And let's face it, you weren't building any snowmen. Now, North Carolina is great because the weather's pretty mild. Listen, you get a lot of people that move from New York to Charlotte because they say, you know what, I don't want to live in Florida. It's too hot down there for me. But if you want to play tennis in December, Florida, have at it. No lie, I have been in this ocean in January and February swimming. Just think about that for a minute. Where else are you going to do something like that? If you like sporting events, Florida, new home of Tom Brady. Now, I will say this. The winters in Florida are the nicest winters you will find anywhere in the country. So if you like cool weather, not going to get much of that down here. Above and beyond all other factors, I think it really comes down to one major consideration. The seasons. You ain't going to be crunching the leaves on your way to school down here. The lack of and loss of seasons for a lot of folks that are coming down here from up north which by the way is where most people come over here from, is just too much to bear. You guys, you know that feeling that like football season's starting, kids are going back to school, there's that crispness to the air. Ain't happening down here. Life is a give and take. What you're giving up to come to Florida is your seasons. You will not have seasons down here as you know them. So guys, by the time I got to like the 7th year living in Charlotte, the whole renewed novelty of my seasons, the fires in the fire pits and all that good stuff.
Just lighting the last fire in my fireplace. It's kind of sad. Burn, baby, burn. Enjoyed a lot of great fires in this beautiful fireplace. One ever. Gonna enjoy it.
And I'm not saying it got old, but after having lived in both places, this is what I really missed. But ask yourself that question. Am I gonna miss winter?
Cold out here.
Okay, I'm freezing my ass off. Get me down there. I'm ready. But you know, if you celebrate Christmas, it's gonna be a little different seeing Santa Claus in his swim trunks. Losing your seasons, if you've lived in a place like Boston your entire life, and you're used to watching the beautiful turn of the leaves in autumn, major snowstorms coming in and, you know, building snowmen with the kids in the backyard, all of that is going to be gone. Gone. It's funny, when I got to Charlotte, we got up there in like mid-August, so fall was right around the corner, and I was so excited about football season and seeing my first snow in 20 years. And can you guys believe that first winter in Charlotte, it didn't snow one time? In a place like Charlotte, you'll average between 2 and 4 snowstorms a year. Well guys, that pretty much sums up the differences between North Carolina and Florida. Don't let me sway you. When it comes down to it, I would say the biggest factor is the weather and the change of seasons. Listen, whichever one you choose, you gotta figure it this way. I lived here for 21 years and I moved back. I lived there for 14 years. I wouldn't have stayed there that long if it was horrible. So either way, they're both great choices. And I wish you guys the best of luck. Wouldn't be stubbing my toe in Charlotte either.
A lot of things I do for you guys.
Almost forgot the damn mask. Did I have it? Forget I have it on. Guess what? I got heated swimming pools up the yin yang. Lactose free. I don't have that problem, not yet anyway. When it comes to the comparisons of lawnmowers, motorcycles, seaplanes. What do you call those things? Shit, I don't remember the name of them. The underpants, the long underwear that you wear underneath your skivvies. Long John. Oh, you don't like me? Come on, I'm the barefoot vlogger. Is anybody a locksmith? Angled the umbrella just right. This is a great little umbrella. It's anyway, it's a great umbrella. And you know, I got webbed feet. For you to be able to just I heard that coming.
You gonna miss Charlotte, Svetlana?
A quick look at one last winter morning. Let's hope. Watch your head.